gave me.
It's the bio that you gave me, so.
Okay, it's the bio.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And there, yeah, because that's what I'm going to address mostly.
Okay, so his expeditions are often part. Do you want me to say the founder of?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Attention, attention everyone, we have a full house tonight, so please, if you see an empty seat next to you, please scooch in. Especially on the right side, we have some more seats open over on the far side of the Clark room.
Just a couple more minutes so that people sit down. Yeah, it's working. Up? Okay. That better? Okay. Good evening. Welcome to the Explorers Club and welcome to Climate Week. I'm Alexander Moore. I'm a director here and I'm also chair of Climate Week, and professionally I'm a climate and health scientist. This is the 5th edition of Climate Week, and it's probably the fastest growing program at the club that shows our determination to keep science and solutions for the climate crisis, and the threats it poses at the forefront of our work. The Explorers Club was founded in 1904 by polar explorers who wished to tell the world about the fragile, stunning, vital ecosystems that are frozen landscapes, also known as the cryosphere. Well, it was there before, up there. For the past several decades, climate scientists, some of whom you will hear from tonight, and explorers worldwide have shown that these ecosystems are in grave danger. The decline of glaciers, ice sheets, sea ice, permafrost throughout the world is posing threats for people, wildlife, and the life as we know it. And it's happening not just at the polar regions or on glaciers, on mountain chains. It's happening also everywhere else because these ecosystems affect the entire world. Sea level rise, catastrophic storms, landslides, weaker or unpredictable ocean currents. You've heard the stories in the news about all of these things, and they're all connected to polar decline. All of these are unpredictable crises that are creating more and more alarming trends and threatening lives and livelihoods and the health of our planet. With our partners, UNESCO and the Prince Albert II of Monaco Foundation and the delegations of France and Tajikistan, we dedicate tonight to launching not only Climate Week, but also a decade of action, research, and solutions. The energy, the faith, the devotion which we bring to this endeavor will lead the way and support all those who dedicate their lives and resources to science, to restoring a healthy and balanced world. And now that I'm done with that, we'll have a few speakers from our delegations that are supporting this event, and then we will go to our scientists. So it's now my pleasure to introduce His Excellency Ashok Adiseam, Deputy Special Envoy for the French President at the United Nations Oceans Conference.
Thank you very much, Excellencies, friends, and friends especially of the Explorers Club. What a fantastic place to meet. This is my 3rd time for very important issues, and I think this is my 2nd time as a Deputy Ambassador also for the ocean and the poles, working with Ambassador Olivier Poivre, who's more known than me, especially for the poles, and he has achieved a lot, including for France with the national strategy for the poles, and which very concretely, we're speaking about concrete objects, delivered this polar station, which has left already with the Tara Foundation to the poles. So, Excellencies, distinguished colleagues, we're very honored to stand up with you today, the French government, with the government of Tajikistan, in this great initiative with the UNESCO to reaffirm our commitment to an ocean-based future, sustainable and visionary. The cryosphere is collapsing before our eyes. Glaciers, ice sheets, permafrost are disappearing at an alarming pace. That was well done. This is not a distant threat. It's already destabilizing ecosystems, accelerating sea level rise, and putting communities from the highest mountains to the lowest coasts at risks. This is why France, together with Tajikistan, took the initiative to call for this decade of action, a concrete result of the One Planet Polar Summit that was in Paris in November 23, if I am not mistaken, held by the President of the French Republic, Emmanuel Macron, in Paris. And our President has just arrived 2 hours ago at the UN General Assembly. We did this because the cryosphere is central to our collective future and because we cannot succeed in tackling the climate crisis. We are here under the chairmanship of the Climate Week without acting decisively on its preservation. And just a few months ago in Nice, during the United Ocean Conference, we had the privilege of officially launching this decade alongside President Macron, President Ramon from Tajikistan, and UNESCO Director General Audrey Azoulay. This launch was not symbolic. It was a milestone because the ocean and the cryosphere are inseparable. What happens to glaciers and the ice sheets will determine the future of our seas, just as the state of the ocean will shape the future of humanity. For that step, and from that step, we must now build momentum. The decade must become a turning point, one that strengthens international research, values traditional and local knowledge, deliver concrete solutions for adaptation and resilience. It must create linkages between mountains and coasts, between science and policy, between urgent mitigation and long-term adaptation. France will remain fully engaged alongside Tajikistan, UNESCO, and all the partners to ensure that this decade delivers. France and Tajikistan are currently collaborating with the Ice Memory Foundation, whose mission is to preserve the scientific and cultural heritage of glaciers for future generations, to extract, and I heard this before, ice cores in the Pamir, and to preserve the memory of this region. We spoke about memory and the libraries of the future. We owe it to the scientific community. We owe it to future generations. And above all, we owe it to the people who already live with the daily consequences of melting cryosphere. I just want to end and to say that this UN General Assembly is crucial at the 80th anniversary of the UN. We have, with others, of course, demonstrated our support to multilateralism, which is at threat, really. And we have proved, notably with this High Seas Treaty, which is 65% of the ocean, which is half of the planet, that when the world comes together with specifics, deliverables, it's possible to do what was thought impossible 14 years ago. Just in 2 years, we managed to accelerate and got this treaty ratified. And now it's time, like for the Cryosphere Decade, to implement. That's what we were discussing with my colleague from Tajikistan, with laser focus vision and with this, like this room, multi-stakeholder platform of concrete collaborations. So thank you very much for your support. Thank you.
Thank you. And as a European citizen, may I just extend an additional word of thanks to President Macron for his leadership for the last 9 months. Personal thanks. It is now my pleasure to introduce His Excellency Mr. Jonibek Hikmat, Permanent Representative of Tajikistan to the United Nations.
Thank you, Mr. Waite, Ambassador. Dear friends, it's great to be here with you. Distinguished colleagues, the sign is clear. The cryosphere is destabilizing and at an alarming pace. WMO has confirmed that the last 2 years brought record global glaciers mass loss. Some glaciers are retreating by more than 1 meter of ice thickness every year. This is not a distant concern, it is a global emergency. The retreating glaciers disrupt rivers and energy supplies. Thawing permafrost releases greenhouse gases. Melting ice sheets accelerate sea level rise. Together, these changes put at risk the lives and livelihoods of over 2 billion people who depend on mountain waters for drinking, agriculture, and energy. For Tajikistan, this crisis is deeply personal. As a water tower of Central Asia, our country hosts around 60% of the region's glaciers. They sustain our rivers, our hydropower, and our future. Yet monitoring stations show accelerating retreat, with some glaciers having already lost over 30% of their volume in the past 50 years. This is why Tajikistan is active within the United Nations framework. Through General Assembly Resolution 77/158, we initiated the International Year of Glaciers Preservation 2025 and established 21st of March as a World Day for Glaciers, a permanent annual reminder. Together with France, we were honored to spearhead Resolution 78/321, launching the Decade of Action for Cryospheric Sciences 2025-2034 under the leadership of UNESCO and WMO. The decade must be more than symbolic. It must be a decade of science, solutions, and solidarity. Allow me to highlight 3 important priorities in this regard. The first, it's important to advance knowledge. We need stronger global observation networks, standardized data systems, and open sites. Our Regional Coordination Center for Glaciers in Dushanbe, for example, is ready to serve as a hub, supporting this effort with the UN system and international partners. Second, adaptations and resilience. From mountain communities to small island developing states, millions are on the front lines of cryospheric change. The decade must promote nature-based and locally led solutions, aligned with the 2030 Agenda and the Paris Agreement. Third, mobilizing resources and partnerships. Science and solutions require financing. The Resolution 77/158 created a UN Trust Fund for glaciers preservation. We encourage member states, international organizations, and private sector to support this mechanism and explore innovative financing models. Excellencies, for more than 2 decades, Tajikistan has brought water and climate issues to the United Nations, from the Water Decade to International Year of Glaciers Preservation, and now the Cryosphere Decade. But no single country can act alone. Protecting the cryosphere is a shared responsibility, a matter of climate justice and the moral obligation to future generations. Let us use this decade to deliver on the Pact of the Future, to put science into action, to strengthen solidarity across regions, and to ensure that no country and no community is left behind. At the end, let me also endorse or echo my dear colleague, ambassador from France, that it's time for all of us to act. The important documents are there, the mandates are there. We have a great partnership with both IHP UNESCO and WMO, and we have plenty of platforms to join hands and focus on the implementation of the decade on cryospheric sciences. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. We would like to acknowledge at this time the delegations of the United States, Switzerland, Mexico, Liberia, and Indonesia who are in the audience. Thank you for your support. And now we have a word from UNESCO itself with their Chief of Section, Dr. Anil Mishra, who will tell us more about the decade of action for cryospheric sciences.
Thank you, Alexander. I'm very pleased to represent UNESCO here and say a few words about our partnership. The partnership with the Explorers Club and Prince Albert II Foundation that brought us together, scientists, explorers and diplomats together here. So this mandate given to us, to UNESCO, I would like to describe why we are working for the decade of action for cryospheric sciences. We would like to present before you scientific milestone and implementation strategy that we need to achieve in the next 10 years. As Ambassador from France said, President Macron organized One Planet Polar Summit in November 2023, and that Paris call for glacier. And out of that Paris call for glacier, in which many scientists from all over the world worked together, last year, exactly 1 year, 1 month ago, so for 13 months ago, UN General Assembly adopted this resolution, Decade of Action for Cryospheric Sciences. If you look at the text, Decade of Action for Cryospheric Sciences, we need to walk the talk. We need to really present milestone. We need to act. And it should be science-based action we need to take. And this is interested to UNESCO. Why? UNESCO, United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, as Ambassador said, the melting glacier is not the issue only of climate change. It's about memory. It's about our heritage. And it also concerns UNESCO's program of World Heritage Sites. We recently did one study which says that 1/3 of the World Heritage Sites, no matter what climate scenario, will be gone because of the climate change. So this is really related to lives and livelihoods of the people living, be it up in the mountain or in the coastal areas, because of the sea level rise. And that's why UNESCO calling for monitoring of glaciers in the 60s, we are interested with this responsibility, and we have to take this task together, collective responsibility and shared vision. I would like to invite all of you to be together with us. So we started with the 5 background documents to develop milestone. 5 background documents on scientific research, cryosphere observation and modeling, policy issues, education and capacity, bridging the funding gap, and socioeconomic impact and vulnerability and adaptation. I don't want to name all the organizations. Some of the representatives are here. So we worked together. We organized brainstorming session in Paris on 20th March. Many of you came over, and we came up with a draft milestone that I'm going to present. And as Ambassador said, on June 8th, during the Ocean Conference, President of France, President of Tajikistan, and UNESCO Director General launched the Ousland, launched the Cryosphere Decade. And now we are implementing that decade, and thank you so much for your support. So this is what we want to achieve over the next 10 years. This is a draft overarching challenges and milestone. We will have, I will not read all the details, but we will be working on global cryosphere monitoring system, cryospheric prediction, mitigation, cryospheric hazard, climate resilient adaptation, building resilient societies, and coordination and making informed decision making. We will be calling for expression of interest to serve in the several working groups. So I would like to invite you to apply those call for expression of interest, be part of it. And already we gathered this many organizations, and probably we need to add Explorer Club as our member of this whole effort. This community, scientists, philanthropic organization, professional organization, UN agencies came together in March to prepare that milestone. And if you are interested, it's available in the website, or we will be having discussion with you to finalize those. So with that, thank you very much. We have the website, Cryosphere Organization. Please contribute. Please be part of the decade. Let's walk the talk and provide those milestones so that we can be proud of what we have achieved after 10 years. Thank you very much.
Okay. 1/3 of UNESCO World Heritage Sites by 2050. You know, for climate scientists like us, it's a double tragedy. It's not just that we're losing the glaciers, it's that the glaciers are a record of climate change for us. We use the ice cores to go back in time and see where the baseline is for everything so we know what's normal. And you're losing the record of climate change because of climate change. So every time I see those statistics, they're kind of, I know that I'm looking at my colleagues from the Climate Change Institute and Brown University here. And, I know that it strikes them as it strikes me. We will now, in fact, shift to their perspective and those of us who spend their lives studying and exploring frozen spaces. And the first person, scientist I'll introduce is Dr. Amanda Lynch, who is a fellow of this club. By the way, pretty much everybody who's going to be here today, and mostly throughout the week, and I encourage you to attend the rest of the events, it will be a member of this club, and it was not by design. It just, they are the best. And Dr. Lynch is one of them. She's a fellow of the club and a Lindman Distinguished Professor of Earth Sciences at Brown University and chair of the research board at the UN Meteorological Organization, and on the executive planning committee of the International Polar Year, which is coming not too far in the future in 2032. Amanda is an Arctic climate scientist with 30+ years of experience working to understand the Arctic ice, often in collaboration with indigenous communities, including Inupiat, Sami, and Inuit. Thank you, Amanda. Please come on up.
Thank you very much, Alex. So yes, the view from the science. I was working as a young scientist in the Beaufort Sea in around 1995, flying drones, which we actually did have back then in the dark ages. And the work that I was doing was to measure how fast the ice was retreating. I was accompanied by an Inupiat bear guard. His name was Henry. His job was to protect the instruments and probably also us from curious polar bears, and he asked me to explain the science that I was doing. I explained to him how fast change was happening in the Arctic. We now know that the Arctic is changing 4 times faster than climate change on the rest of the planet. And he listened to me and he thought for a moment, and then he said, "How is your work helping me?" And that question totally reshaped my career. And since then, I've worked to make my science matter on the ground, matter to those people in those places who are being affected by this crisis, by this rapid change, because the ice is in retreat everywhere, dramatically so. As we've heard, glaciers that supply drinking water to 2 billion people on this planet are losing water faster than the ice can be replaced. The permafrost is weakening, degrading, thawing, buckling roads, breaking pipelines, and rendering dozens of settlements in the Arctic inaccessible within the next decade. An ice-free Arctic summer is likely to be seen within the next decade. These photographs and videos that you're seeing is work that I was doing in Uummannaq in Western Greenland about 6 years ago. We were working with the children's home there. The children had, many of them, been affected by what we often call a climate change tsunami, which is, scientists will cringe when I say that. It was not a geological tsunami, but a large chunk of ice broke off into the fjord, sending massive waves up into the small outlying communities around Uummannaq and devastating them. And so many of those children ended up in that children's home, where we worked with them to understand how the fast ice, the ice that's anchored to the coastline, was degrading in the spring. This is their safe means of transport to communicate amongst all of their villages in that region. And the ice is getting crappy and cruddy, and I'm sure you'll hear that from Børge. But they need to be able to tell when the ice is safe. And so we were working with them with drones, with satellites, and with measurements on the ground to understand how the ice is affecting those communities in Greenland. But these changes ripple far beyond the frozen world. And in particular, we've heard about sea level rise. And sea level rise will certainly affect coastal communities everywhere. But for small island states, they're facing the almost unimaginable future of no territory left for them. So to call this unprecedented is surely an understatement. The decades of the World Climate Research Program, which certainly nurtured my career, is moving rapidly through this crisis, but gaps remain. We still don't see enough of what is happening in the high mountain and polar regions. And in fact, we're losing data as we speak from many of our records, not just from the records of the ice, but from our electronic repositories, from the degradation of our satellite fleet. We still, in our prediction models, we stumble on the complexity of ice physics, and that requires deeper investigation. And the people who are most vulnerable to these changes are least equipped to deal with them. And so this is why the decade of action on cryospheric sciences is absolutely crucial. We have a once-in-a-generation chance to weave research and action on the ice into a single global effort. And the 5th International Polar Year, which is coming in 2032, is going to be a high point of that decade. The legacy of the International Polar Years, dating from the first year in 1881, is the moment where all of the strands can come together as scientists worldwide collaborate on coordinated research projects to understand this complex place. And so what I would like to leave you with is the thought that we cannot adapt to what we do not understand. And this decade is a chance to build that understanding together. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Lynch. Now we will move to introducing Børge Ousland, who is a fellow of this club and widely regarded as one of the world's foremost polar explorers. Børge is a former North Sea deep sea diver. He became the first person to complete solo and unsupported expeditions to both the North Pole and the South Pole, and the first to cross Antarctica solo. Over the decades, he has led and joined pioneering journeys across some of the harshest ice fields on Earth, including the Arctic Ocean, Patagonia, and the North Pole in winter. He is the founder of IceLegacy, a project with partner Vincent Koya, I'm assuming that that's how you pronounce it, to document the effects of climate change on the world's great ice caps. Beyond exploration, Børge is the founder of Menshausen Island Lodge in northern Norway, and the author of numerous books, and he's just come back from one of his expeditions. I know that we couldn't reach you for a couple of weeks there, so couldn't be more authentic. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I will explain what we're doing with the IceLegacy project, which I started in 2012 together with Vincent Colliard on the picture here. And this photo is actually from the last expedition where you couldn't reach us because we were way out there in the Canadian Arctic, crossing Ellesmere Island. We skied 1,000 kilometers, crossing 5 ice fields on the way on this expedition. And what we really want to do is to show how important snow and ice has been and still is for sustaining life on the planet. And so far we have crossed 16 of the world's largest ice fields. And so we really want to be that visual example. And you know, science is important. You need science to make sound and good decisions. But I also think you need adventure. You need someone who goes out there into these white icy landscapes, into the heart of these areas, and come back with impressions and emotions and tell what does it look like out there. And we want to be those guys. This photo, some of this ice field I've crossed several times, and this is from the southern Patagonian ice field. It's in 2003, and I was back 10 years later, the same place. I didn't recognize myself. It was a mountain where we were used to ski. So these areas are really changing so fast, much faster than I think most people can understand and comprehend. And the same is happening in the Arctic. When I did my first expedition to the North Pole in 1990, the average ice was 3 to 4 meter thick, and now it's 1 to 2 meter thick. It's just a totally different landscape. That old multi-year ice that we had there back in the early 90s, that's almost completely gone in the Arctic, on the Arctic Ocean. And it's not just the thickness that's been reduced, also the coverage has been reduced by 30-40% since when I was there, you know, on the first expeditions. So. These rapid changes, that obviously has huge consequences for the whole food chain up there. And when the ice melts, the more ice will melt simply because of this dark surface of the open water absorbs the energy from the sun instead of reflecting it, and the ocean temperature is rising. So that's one of the reasons why, as Amanda mentioned, the temperature in the Arctic rises more than twice as fast as the global average. Actually I did my first expedition was across Greenland, and I came to Uummannaq, where you did your research, Amanda, and we skied all the way into Uummannaq in May, and that is simply not possible anymore because the sea ice is gone. So that's just a fact that we can see as an eyewitness to the climate change up there. And when I first started with these expeditions, the concept of climate change, that was something that was happening in the future, you know, not now. There's something way further into the future. And I think we somehow are still lost in that misconception. And I think people at large, they don't really know and understand that climate change is happening. It's happening here now. Future is here. Ice is melting as we speak, and I think we have to get that message across. So that's why it's important that we have these conferences, and thank you to UNESCO and Explorers Club, and also Prince Albert Foundation for putting this important topic high up on the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Børge. By the way, the photo where he's crossing over the bridge on top of the Karas, don't try that at home. Wow. How many of you have been to the Explorers Club before? Okay, so only half. Martin, is it you in the back? Can you come up? Here's our Vice President of Flag and Honors, Martin Nuea, Dr. Martin Nuea. So one of the weird things that we do here is that we take flags that are all around us in this room, including this one, the Kontiki flag. We take them on expedition. And they've been, as Martin will tell you, how many places on average does a flag go?
Oh, probably on average about 30 places.
30 places. And we have one tonight here with that has gone to both the North Pole and the South Pole. And we're interrupting this regular scheduled programming for a break, because we've been talking about a lot of things, and give you a treat. Dr. Sylvia Earle, one of our most esteemed members and honorary directors, is in the room, and she will be returning the flag as chief scientist of the expedition known as Bears, Icebergs, and Glaciers, which was led by Michael Awe, with Flag 73, which has been to the Antarctic and the Arctic. And they found, as they were going toward the Arctic, they found sea ice at the 82nd degree north, right? Which is pretty far north. It didn't used to be, as you saw in Børge's presentation. So Sylvia, would you come up? And do we have the flag in the room? I hope so. Taylor? I can't see anything, so you guys. It's always a treat when we can have Sylvia in the room. Sylvia, do you want the microphone for a minute?
Well, first, I want to pay tribute to an Arctic hero who's just gone on to greater explorations. Maybe something has already been said, but the Arctic fox, who explored the Arctic by being at the helm of nuclear submarines, who've actually piloted under the North Pole. Captain Fred McLaren. I first had the privilege to go to the North Pole in 1998 with Captain McLaren, with other members of the Explorers Club. There was a lot more ice in the Arctic then than there is now. I just recently looked at images of my grandson as a scientist at the North Pole, drilling through what remains of the ice. This is a time when, as never before, we have knowledge that not only did not but could not exist 100 years ago or 50 years ago. We are witnesses of extraordinary change in the very natural world that makes our existence possible. And nowhere is this more evident than in polar areas. had the privilege of being a part of this expedition to the Arctic this year. The bears, ocean, the ice, being able to see the systems and to realize that we are witnessing change. Imagine if we didn't know. Imagine if we didn't understand why this matters to the world that is the only place in the universe that's suitable for the likes of us, and polar bears, and whales, and all the rest of life on Earth. We have the best chance right now, on our watch, to do what it takes to take care of what remains of the natural systems that make Earth habitable. So bravo, my fellow explorers, all of you. We have the best chance right now to do what it takes to keep us within safe operating space. We couldn't do it before because we didn't know enough. Wait another 50 years, we'll lose the chance, the best chance ever. Wait 10 years, no, we have to do it now. Thank you for coming together to explore, to celebrate exploration, and thank you for doing what you can, all of you, to keep the polar regions safe, not to let them continue to melting away. This is our time, the best time ever. Thank you for being you.
Okay, little treat for everybody. Now we're going to have our speakers come up, please, Dr. Lynch, Børge, and I would like to also invite Salomé Martin, who is the Polar Initiative Manager for the Prince Albert II of Monaco Foundation. And we'll actually start, and I don't think I can move because I don't have a microphone that moves, so I'm going to have to stay here, unless maybe Salomé.
Yeah.
Or one of you can just, thank you. I hate standing there. Puts you on the spot. Perhaps I can start with Salomé and ask a few questions of... There you go. So, the Prince Albert of Monaco Foundation is funding a lot of programs in the Arctic. And perhaps you can tell us more about what the projects are and how you see your work contributing to the preservation of the Arctic. Yeah, of course. Oh,
okay. Is it working?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Great.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me here. So yeah, the Prince Albert Foundation is really deep, also linked to the exploration, because it was created 1 year after an expedition of His Serene Highness to the Arctic. The aim of the foundation and the aim of the Polar Initiative that we launched is really to support the voice that you hear today, your voice, and to bring it to different level. So the idea is we hear it, we need to understand that it's happening, what is happening in the Arctic. We need people to understand that it's urgent, that it's happening right now, it's not in the future. And the aim of the foundation is really to support projects that are going to bring this knowledge, the scientific knowledge, but also the voice of the explorers, the voice of the people that are here, the community, the indigenous community, to the other field, to the policymakers, to the public, to the people that can also help to transform this knowledge into action, into what we're gonna do now, how we're gonna act to preserve this pristine and those regions that we so need for the data, but also for the climate in general. So really we have different projects that we're supporting. We have with the French, the Tara Polar Station that we are supporting, that is now in the Arctic, and is going to drift for several years and several months to the Arctic to bring a lot of data that is needed. But we also support indigenous communities directly, so they have the rights of their lands, and they are able to bring their voices to the others. And in Antarctic, we mostly support data to bring it to the Antarctic Treaty Meeting, to bring the knowledge that they need to protect this pristine areas, this Antarctic. So really, we are an interface. We really hope to be the one that give you the voice and the platform if you need one, kind of like the Explorers Club is also doing.
That's why we keep working together.
Yes, exactly.
It's a little embarrassing for me to bring this up, given that we've all had our funding affected somehow. But funding is a problem in the Arctic. It's challenging. In all polar research, I know something about it because we've written many grants about it. Not all of them are successful. How do you see overcoming those challenges with the foundation and in general?
Well, yeah, it's a difficult time right now, I think, for many of you in the room.
Must have like 10 times the applications for grants.
Yeah, but I think what the decade is also trying to do, and what everyone is trying to do, is really to bridge this gap, the financing gap, by finding funding that usually you don't look at, for example. So you have the public funding, but we need to get a bit more of the philanthropists there. You need to get them to understand that you need to act now, and why you need the funding, and we're trying to bridge this gap. So, for example, during UNOC, we launched the Polar Donors Roundtable. That is a safe space for the philanthropists to come together and understand what is happening and trying to get the funding to where it's needed. I think what IPY will also be doing by getting all those priorities together and so we can understand where we need the funding would be really helpful. And yeah, now it's a matter of hoping that all those initiatives will be helping to get the thing done.
Thank you. Foundations have been central to this last few months, and I want to thank thank you for your work and the work of the foundation for stepping in and actually filling that void. And Børge, you have had you're also financing these expeditions. How do you do it, and how is it?
Well, yeah, that's a big part of the whole trip, kind of. So it's different pillars. You have to do the logistics. You have to do the physical training, and but you also have to do the funding. And on the last two trips, we actually got funded by Explorers Club because we applied for a grant. And so that was what actually made us able to fulfill what we did on Ellesmere Island. So if there is any explorers out there who have some good projects and dreams, you can apply to Explorers Club. And I think you actually also increase the grants now, which is great, which is needed since the governments are cutting down on these kind of spendings.
We're trying, definitely. The board of directors is intent on in fact, we have had several strategic meetings that are trying to triple the number of grants and the amount of grants that we put out. But it's a hard road because, of course, everybody who used to apply for public funding now is applying for private funding, and so we're competing with our own friends. Not only for getting the grants, but also for giving the grants. So it's a challenging time, but we're doing our best. Perhaps I can ask a question of Amanda now, if we can go back to her, but I have to find. So you've talked about how fast the changes are happening. What is the type of research that's most critical, in your opinion, that needs to be done for the cryosphere or the frozen places? Does it work?
Yep.
Okay, good.
Thank you. Yeah, the part of the issue that we have in the Arctic is it is changing so very quickly, and this is also true of high mountain regions, and so there's a real sense of urgency of getting out there and collecting the data before it's gone and before this moment passes and we're into another moment that we also don't understand. It's a kind of a trying to jump on a galloping horse. So there is, it feels like everything is urgent, and it can be challenging for scientists to prioritise their activities. The orientation that I take, and it's also a key part of what we do at the WMO, is thinking about the safety of the people who are being affected by the change and prioritise that. And so thinking about saving lives, supporting livelihoods in these regions means providing them with early warnings, providing rapid forecasts, which challenges us to change the way we produce those kinds of models, because the physics doesn't work the way it used to work. And so we need to be sure that nobody is caught unawares of in the face of a glacial outburst flood, or an ice sheet collapse, or a storm in the middle of the ocean. And so a lot of the focus that we're bringing to bear at the WMO, and certainly in my research, is really focusing on those timescales that save lives. And that can be one way that we can orient our sense of urgency.
Yeah, thank you. You know, I just remind that this question about the speed reminds me of an expedition that I actually led with my wife up. She didn't used to be my wife. We met on expedition. Fun story. I'll tell you about it later over drinks. But we actually were at the foot of a glacier in Iceland, and we found a massive cave, glacial cave. Glaciers kind of coming up from the land. It's kind of does this. And we found this beautiful cave, almost proposed there, didn't happen. But you could actually hear the glacier moving. You could hear that. You can hear it. You can hear the water. Whoever came up with as slow as a glacier, I don't know where they got that from, because that thing was moving. It was moving very fast. Has that been your experience, Børge?
Yeah, you can often hear it actually.
Yeah, and I mean this is the thing. It's almost like the other. A big program that we do here is Oceans Week, because we want to bring ocean science and exploration to everyone, because so few people dive. Even fewer people go where you go, where we go. And we really don't understand the scale of this. It's really quite remarkable. You have like the aha moment where this, has that ever happened to you in the field, Amanda?
Me? Yeah, I think that the big moment for me was probably the return to Uummannaq. When I went there 6 years ago, was a return after maybe a decade, and seeing how much it had changed. And you mentioned that as well. It's that sense of, you know, we've been working in these places for decades, and we're actually seeing the change happen, and that can be quite dramatic. And in Uummannaq there was that sense of, well, we can't go out in the fjord now, even though, you know, it's March, because the ice is just not safe. And that kind of sense of, oh, this really is different. This is not the place I visited. These are not the people that I visit. They've been affected. They've been changed by what they're living.
Absolutely. Yeah, we don't live there, and imagine living. Yesterday's University of the Arctic had actually a video, and one of the testimonies from one of the indigenous inhabitants, I don't know where it was from, I don't recall it, but it actually said, we use the ice for so many things. And you know, imagine having that taken away from you. It's your entire livelihood. Børge, you have the IceLegacy project. What do you want to accomplish with that? What message do you want to convey?
Well, I think the main answer to that is about emotions, really. And if you think about it, most big decisions in life is somehow based on emotions. Who you marry, and where you're going to live, and what kind of job you're going to have. So. And humans are the only species on Earth that can tell stories, and stories becomes ideas, and ideas becomes into action. And when we're talking about climate change, I don't think we should underestimate the power of the consumer. And what we really want to achieve with the IceLegacy project, as you said, we go to places that very few people go to, is to try to interact with that guy in the street that doesn't necessarily read scientific reports. So yes, you need science, but you also need adventure, in our opinion. So we want to bring back emotions and images from the field to tell what's going on. And we also want to, well, we have this naive belief that if you use something, you're in a better position to take care of it. So we want to be an inspiration, actually, to others to go out there and explore and see for themselves, and understand that this is something that we have to take care of.
Thank you. Amanda, you've been, you've worked with these communities, with indigenous communities in the Arctic a lot. And often, as I just did, we think of them as victims of what the developed world is doing with greenhouse gas emissions, pollution, etc. But actually, they're shaping their future. Can you tell us how?
Yeah, it's been, I think, a learning experience for all of the scientists who spend a lot of time in these places, whether it be in the high mountain areas or the Arctic. Less so in Antarctica, because the only people who live there are scientists and nobody really cares about us. So they get on with it. But in these other parts of the icy world, these communities are becoming much better at organising and advocating for what's needed on the world stage. So understanding that ultimately what we're talking about is a global problem that is not of their making, but they can be part of the voices that bring about that solution. And in some cases, that's through formal forums, such as permanent representatives on the Arctic Council, and that's been a very powerful opportunity. But through the Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues that meets here in New York, and many of these other international fora, they're really not just coming with tales of change and damage, but coming with organising principles for how we're going to change this. And in that, they're very much allied with their compatriots from small island nations. Yeah. And there is a lot of cross-fertilisation amongst those groups, which has been extremely effective.
Thank you. We actually, at Climate Week in 2023, when we worked with UNESCO the last time, had about 40% of our speakers from small island nations and the Arctic, and we put them together in the same events to do precisely what you just described. We don't have a whole lot of time. The clock back there is telling us, but I would love to end on a positive note, or at least a constructive note, lacking positivity. And so ask Børge and Salome to tell us about what solutions you see that are most promising, and even if it is just telling people about and raising awareness about these things.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a super big and important questions, and obviously you need science, you need politics, and you need finance, and you need innovation. But as I mentioned, I think you also need to bring up the normal guy in the street and the consumer into the picture here when we're talking about solutions. But the problem with the climate change, I feel, is that it's so huge, it's global, and it's overwhelming, and it's easy to think that, okay, it doesn't matter what little I do. But I like to turn that and say that, and take it down to a personal level, actually, and because if you're part of the problem, you also have to be a part of the solution. And if everyone does something, it adds up, and then it matters. And all big changes in history has started with a number of people believing that something is possible. So from my perspective, I think, yeah, you have to start with yourself.
Thank you.
Well, to continue with what you say, I think if it's not solution, but to get hope, it's the community that you have here and everyone that would work on those solutions. This morning we actually had an event that gathering a lot of high people talking just about the solution, what's happening and what you can do about it. And you see that there is a room, there is the people that want to think about that. And especially you have the youth also there, and you have the indigenous people there. And they're doing something on the ground, and you are also. So I think the solution come up with everyone, and then if you can find the hope there, then, as you say, we are the problem, so we need to fix it. Thank you.
And if you do nothing, the result will be nothing.
Yes.
So you have to do something.
Exactly. Start somewhere.
Well, we're doing something right here, right now. Besides being a collective therapy session, Climate Week actually is a fantastic, really successful and decentralized communications effort. We are doing science communication right here and bringing your experiences, as precious as they are, to the broader audience and tens of thousands online who are actually watching us. So thank you so much for your contributions. We're not done yet, but thank you so much. If you'll just hang for a second, we're going to do another flag return, because in fact, one of the projects that you just mentioned was funded in collaboration with UNESCO and the Explorers Club, carrying flag 210, flag 210 to Kilimanjaro. And I'd like to invite Daniel McGuinness and Børge and a couple of young women that were selected for this expedition, Leila and Kayla, I'm not making this up, and the board and the flag. And please, Tim Challen, wherever you are, I can't see anything because the lights are in my eyes, but please come on up and return the flag that went all the way to Kilimanjaro. Oh, there you go. Sorry, Martin. Oops. And perhaps it's best if we all just sit down. We usually have the soundtrack for this, but I guess not today. It's kind of quiet. All right. Congratulations.
Maybe we ask all the climbers who are on the climb to stand up. Just stand up. So there was many.
Woo! Thank you so much. And may this collaboration with UNESCO continue to be this profitable for everyone. I would like to have some closing words. Privilege of the chair. Please check out the rest of our program. We're completely sold out for some days, but other days are still open. Tomorrow in particular, there will be some scoops announced from this very podium, particularly for new science, new scientific discoveries that have just been made by, again, expeditions that we organized. And I'd like to also thank our staff. We have an amazing staff, and I have all their names here. I hope I can actually read them all because I wrote them by hand. I always do this. I should not, but Kevin Murphy, Brittany Barbazat, Charlotte Kayarek, Margaret Ferris, Felix Frigeland, Will Roseman, our executive director, Tim McGovern, Lacey Flint, Louis Smuga in the back, who's working the cameras, and did I say Luis? Yes. George Shomo, Andrew McInerney, Jenna O'Connor, who was out there with Lacey and Margaret, Gracie Alameda and Valerie Kilbridge, Jake Sheriff in the back, with the coolest name in the club for sure. I would like to thank the president of the Explorers Club for allowing me to to do this, and the board of directors on which I sit. And I would like to acknowledge our board of trustees, and I think Mr. Levy is in the audience, and we're going to continue to acknowledge him. And all of those of you who have supported this program have also supported this program by taking a passport, which supports it for years to come. Thank you so much. I hope to see you again at 7 p.m. and for the rest of the week. 29 seconds.